Coming to you live, well, recorded anyway, from the Mended Oak. Psalm 131 is a great psalm for this particular season in the life of American Christians. My heart is not proud, Lord. My eyes are not haughty. I do not concern myself with great matters or things too wonderful for me, but I have calmed and quieted myself. I am like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child, I am content. Israel, put your hope in the Lord, both now and forevermore. The grass withers, the flower fades. God's word endures forever. I love that psalm. David is the king. David's the king, and he says there are things that are too wonderful for him, too marvelous for him, things that are above his pay grade, things he cannot figure out. I wish more American Christians had that kind of heart, a heart that recognized God for who God was and us for who we are, and that we are limited and God is not. I am so impressed how often followers of Jesus have really strong opinions, really strong attitudes, really strong argumentative attitudes about things they don't really understand. For example, high-level economic theory. I've heard some pretty profound high-level economic theory espoused by people who follow Jesus. It's above my pay grade. I actually have a stepbrother. My dad remarried late in life and married this wonderful lady named Mert Hubbard. She and my dad are both gone, but Mert's son, she has two sons, and one of those sons is Glenn Hubbard. And Glenn was the chairman of the board of economic advisors to the president of the United States. He was like a really smart guy, especially when it came to economics. If I was to sit down and have a conversation with Glenn, I don't think my opinions would matter much. And this isn't like an argument from authority or something like that. No, it wouldn't matter much because I know he knows way more about the subject than I do when it comes to economics. Much of what I would be talking about would be things that would be too marvelous for me. There's this Greek word called eresis, and Paul uses it in Galatians. It's the word for dissension or party spirit. Eresis has to do with dissensions that arise from divergent opinions or aims. So when Christians want to do something different from other Christians, or when Christians have opinions that are different from other Christians, that's eresis, when they let those sorts of things divide it. And the Apostle Paul talks about eresis as part of the sinful nature. He contrasts that with the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control. And eresis is in the opposite direction of all of that. So Psalm 131 will help us keep eresis, will keep dissensions from showing up in the church, but we've got to be committed to it. And part of that is going, okay, I know there are things that are above my pay grade. But it's so hard. Because this stuff just rises up. I remember one time I introduced two Christians to each other. I went to lunch with two Christian friends, okay? So he was a Jesus-loving, Orthodox, Bible-believing guy who loved music and worked with youth. And she was a Jesus-loving, Bible-believing, Orthodox woman who loved music, loved working with youth. And this wasn't like they were like potential dating partners or anything like that. It was just friends, kind of different stages of life, but we can get together. And I'm so looking forward to introducing those two. And they argued over fine points of theology, and they kept arguing and just felt disrespected by each other. I mean, the conversation, this lunchtime ended with the two of them arguing about the nutritional value of Ritz crackers. And I know that was above their pay grade. Neither one of them was trained in nutrition, but they let it divide them. There's so much that divides the church today. I kind of miss the good old days, back when it was churches dividing over the color of carpet. Are you team blue carpet or team red carpet? The good old days. Do you want chairs or pews? Or what kind of music would you prefer in church? We're going to have a fight, a division over the type of music in the church. Those were the good old days, because now people divide over things like politics and who kneels at the flag, or should they stand at the flag, the NFL players. Really? NFL policy is going to divide the church? And whether or not you're anti-mask or pro-mask, or anti-vax or pro-mask or pro-vax, or who are you going to vote for? Red? Are you going to vote blue? Are you going to vote independent? I mean, people divide over these things. And the reason they divide very, very often is because, number one, they don't recognize that most of the stuff they're arguing about is way above their pay grade. And no, YouTube doesn't make you an expert. You might be listening to this on YouTube. It doesn't make you an expert, but it makes people suspicious of one another, divide one another. I led a non-traditional church from 2013 to 2023. And I'm so grateful I did. I didn't have, a building or staff or budget, none of those kinds of pressures that so many of my colleagues in ministry had to deal with. But the dissensions and the divisions that impacted our culture did impact my little church, and it divided us. And I'm just grateful nobody lost their job. Nobody got laid off. I'm also grateful I kind of was able to maintain relationships with both sides, and so they didn't just walk away. So many of my pastor friends, people that they had poured into and invested in for years, they watched them walk away. They watched them walk away because people who were in their churches, who they loved, cared for, sacrificially served, those people gave themselves over to matters that were too wonderful for them and allowed them to form dissension in their heart based on opinion or divergent aims, and it led to separation in the church. So read Psalm 131. Let it inform you. Let it shape you to understand who you are and who God is. And in your church, love one another. Now, I'm going to go from here to the next video. I'm going to be talking about Jesus's direction on how to stay connected, and a lot of it has to do with knowing what to give to Caesar, what to give to the government, what to give to God in Matthew 22. So if you want to continue this conversation, you can jump over there. Hey, blessings.